I've seen Newcastle fans commenting on this as well, and this is just a number of them, and they've actually been saying, and this, again, you can read this for yourself on social media. What a cracking game. It says, don't listen to our fans that are complaining about you being dirty. They're saying that was a proper competitive FA Cup game, and we loved every minute of it.
So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And on Saturday, we were treated to an absolutely fantastic game of football. It was an FA Cup tie against Newcastle, and it really was incredible. Some good goals, some big challenges, and the atmosphere was truly amazing. What a time to be a Birmingham City supporter. The lads give everything, and they left everything out on the pitch. And as I say, the atmosphere and the Blues fans were absolutely fantastic. It kind of reminded me of the Worthington Cup semi-final against Ipswich, against West Ham in the 2011 Carling Cup, those magical cup nights that we have down St Andrews. It was hostile, it was loud, but sadly, it did end in a 3-2 defeat to Newcastle. But Dad, how proud are we of the team?
Oh, immensely. We went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the Premier League, and there's no doubt that Newcastle, you can see their class, that they made changes, but, you look at the players that they had and the value of those players on the pitch. I mean, they completely, should have won that game really by a much greater margin in terms of the performance. But we went toe-to-toe with them, our effort. We played football that was above League One standard, in my opinion. Like you said, Matt, the atmosphere was truly tremendous. It was, and even the Newcastle fans have commented on that. And if they comment on it, some of the environments that they've been in Europe in the past, and Premier League, playing Premier League clubs, it was phenomenal, really, and I'm so proud of the team.
You could tell it was going to be noisy, Dad, because we got there before the turnstiles opened and there was already a massive queue. Songs were kicking off in the concourse half an hour before kick-off. People were in their seats an hour before. The stadium was starting to get busy at that point. And it was just electric, wasn't it, even from the get-go. And we were all standing. It was like an away game. In the tilt and round through the cup, we were standing pretty much during the entire game. It had that away game feel to it, and we know, don't we, as Birmingham City supporters, Dad, we can make it intimidating in those big games. And I think what made a big difference was we were the underdogs, weren't we? We weren't expected to win yesterday, so we always get, it always brings that extra level of noise. And I think for me, the biggest thing was our fight and our battle, our energy, our relentlessness. We really did go toe to toe with them. And, I just want to address it quite soon, Dad, because there's been some things on social I've been reading that we were maybe overly aggressive or dirty, let's say. And I disagree with that. I think actually it made it a quality game of football. And I think Newcastle got as good as they given. It was that made it a classic game of football to me.
I saw all that as well. But actually, on that and on the atmosphere, I just want to read out a couple of from ex posts, wherever they are, from Newcastle fans. After the game, and this is, I mean, there was a lot like this, but these are a couple I picked out particularly just to demonstrate how good it was. Birmingham City, fair effing play. Obviously, in this podcast, we can't and we won't say the full word, but you get the gist of it. I was in the away end tonight. This is obviously a Newcastle fan, and I don't think I've heard a better set of home fans in my life. It was like St.Andrews KnightheadPark on Wednesday night, feral quality. And that was when they beat Arsenal in the Carabao Cup semi-final. And there's one other one as well. If Birmingham have that attendance every week, then they'll be the best fans I've seen in the country. Cracking tonight. That's from Newcastle fans. And also as well, I've seen quotes saying that Premier League needs Birmingham City and about the atmosphere. And I think it just shows you that where we're going, And one thing I was really pleased about, Matt, before we get into the actual game itself, was that Tom Wagner was there to experience that. And we said that against Wrexham as well, didn't we? This was better than Wrexham, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, miles clear of it. No, as I said in the intro, it reminded me of West Ham in the Carling Cup in 2011, Ipswich in the Worthington Cup semi-final. It was those kind of nights, those epic cup nights. Villa, 2011, it had that vibe
Tom Wagner was there, Matt, wasn't he? And, he got to see a vision of what he's bought. Actually bought, because this is what the future is now for Birmingham City, I think that for him to see that will, it's almost like, not that we can do this, but it's like us giving him something back. We can never repay him back for what he's done for the club, but nights like that he must think to himself, I've definitely bought the right club here. But fair play, and like you say, Matt, it just. It was a disappointing result in the end, but ultimately, not that I wanted to get knocked out of the FA Cup, I didn't, and if we'd have gone through, it would have been great. But ultimately, our bread and butter starts again on Tuesday night against Cambridge. And this game, if we'd have won it, it would have had an extra game to an already significantly congested calendar. Yeah, of course we wanted to win, but if you're going to get knocked out of the FA Cup, you go out like that. You go out against a top team. You played your hearts out. You've obviously got a lot of respect from anybody who watched that. And as we get into a few bits of the game now, I think we was unlucky in certain parts as well.
Were we dirty?
No, I don't think so. I think that what Newcastle fans may say is, I mean, I thought. See, the thing is, as a Birmingham City supporter, we want to see our players give heart and soul, and I think there's a fine line between being competitive and being aggressive, and I think we were just showing Newcastle we weren't going to get pushed around. I don't think there was anything overly malicious. I think, that shoulder barge that Clara did, people say we was nowhere near the ball, but you see that every week.
Also, Bruno did it in the first half to Iwata.
Yeah.
Everything that the Newcastle fans were complaining about, maybe apart from the Stano thing where he put him in the hoardings, the Newcastle players did in the first half anyway. They got all the money. They possibly didn't like the fact their players were getting booted around the park. But that's football. It's a game. It's a physical game. We've seen it in League One, Dad, this season. We've been booted off the park by League One teams. It's just football. And
I've seen Newcastle fans commenting on this as well, and this is just a number of them, and they've actually been saying, and this, again, you can read this for yourself on social media, what a cracking game, it says, don't listen to our fans that are complaining about you being dirty. They're saying that was a proper competitive FA Cup game, and we loved every minute of it.
Also, there was only one player that got stretched off, and that was Mark Leonard.
Yeah, exactly. And the player who did that didn't even get a yellow card for that. Yeah, and they were physical enough themselves. I mean, that booking that Jay Stansfield got just in the Tilton corner, that was a 50-50 ball that he did nothing. If you look at that, he did nothing. Both players, and that's when the player went into the hoardings just down the side. Yeah.
But if you look at it back and look at the details, there was nothing in it really. But
there wasn't. But I thought Newcastle, is clearly a quality team, and the players that they had on the pitch, I really liked that. Was it Osolo? Was it Osula?
Number 18.
Yeah, he was. I didn't know much about him before, but he's going to be a top player for them.
And Willock, both their wingers.
Willock was good. He was really good. But the difference with Newcastle and what we've seen, we're used to playing League One teams, aren't we? And we've been very successful in breaking them down. Newcastle were completely different, and what it showed us as Birmingham City, we can compete with teams playing a different style. What the difference was is that Newcastle were far faster on the break than teams we've played before, because they would be, wouldn't they? And that's where we had caught out a few times in transition, didn't we?
We saw it last season against Leicester. Do you remember when they were playing us at home, Dad?
That's a good example.
We noticed the quality in Leicester breaking really quick. It was like Newcastle, wasn't it? When they transition lightning speed. Yeah. And I remember, I think it was in the first half, Dad, when Iwata gave the ball away basically really cheaply. I think Willock just took it, and they almost scored from it. It was a terrible ball in the end, but you just think, blimey neck, they're quick. And I agree that those wingers were. I think Cochrane had a tough time in that first half, didn't he, against that Asula?
I've read some posts about saying it was Cochrane's worst game, but I don't agree with that. In terms of the quality of the opposition was a lot higher, and I think that a lot of their attacks came down that right hand side, which is obviously Cochrane's on the left, isn't it? So it's their right. And Cochrane is over the season has been one of our most consistent players over the whole season, and I think he was under tough opposition. I think he will look at that and obviously know what he needs to do now when he faces more top opposition. But overall, I mean, you can't really sort of pick that out as a problem.
No one's, but in my opinion, no one's looked at Cochrane and gone, he had a terrible game. We lost the game because of Cochrane. But it's fair to say he had a tough night. He was getting ran ragged by on the right-hand side.
That seemed to be their game plan. They favoured that side, I think, because most of their attacks came down the right. That's where that Osula was, wasn't it? And up against him.
And Willock on the other side.
Yeah, he had a few as well, but I thought overall, particularly I think defensively, we were great. I mean, Ben Davies, he made some fantastic blocks, and so did Clara as well. Clara's immense again.
Clara and Ben Davies, Dad, were exceptional. Yeah. I thought Laird was exceptional. I thought his energy was brilliant. He was going on these runs. He got back when he needed to. He got into attacking positions. And Dad, he played a couple of cracking balls into the box, but no one was there.
No, I know.
Oh, it was so frustrating, especially in the second half when they were coming down the tilt, and he got some beautiful balls in the box, and no one was on the end of it. But I just want to give a special shout out to Laird because he does have his critics, doesn't he? And I thought he was exceptional. Yeah. Clara and Davies was exceptional, and Stano as well. In terms of energy, I mean, the whole team were great, but just in terms of energy and that determination, that resilience, that grit, I mean, those four for me stood out in that area.
I know, absolutely, and I think as well, someone else who I think has made a massive difference already since he's been there is Kieran Dowell.
Yeah, same.
He's set piece deliveries. We look like a different team on corners now. We look dangerous. The balls are going into dangerous areas. areas. I mean, we've struggled on that, and we scored, nicely sort of segue into the first goal, really, because it came from a Kieran Dowell corner. It went to the back post as I think it was Keshi Anderson that cushioned it to Laird, and Mr. Goal Machine, he's now, isn't he?
Right, to be fair, he did take a pretty big deflection to go into a corner.
Yeah, you still had to be there to take the shot.
Who cares? And that was 1-0, and the place was absolutely erupted, didn't it?
Oh my word, that was volcanic. that was volcanic. The place absolutely went bananas, didn't it? And to score that early as well, and the atmosphere was hot anyway, wasn't it? I think Eddie Howe referred to it as it was electric. He said that in his post-match conference, and it was, and that just energised it even more. It took up a nodule, and to me that was a quality start, and you got us 1-0 up. And
it did, and as an overarching theme of the game, Dad, it didn't feel like a football match to me. It kind of felt like a boxing match.
But don't you think as an FA Cup match it should be like?
It's great. That's a massive compliment. It was like two fighters, heavyweight champions. When I say heavyweight champions, Newcastle are in the Premier League, we're in League One. But I just mean in terms of just lumping each other in the face. And it was that kind of game, really entertaining, kind of end to end in some games, weren't it?
Yeah.
And after that 1-0 win, Dad, it became 1-0 goal. It became a really free-flowing game of football. And, we talk about a lot of we're a League One football club. We talk a lot about this season about not trouncing teams and not going to teams. This, to me, showed why, because Newcastle didn't sit back. They came at us. It allowed us gaps to go forward as well. And we looked more dangerous going forward. And it allowed us to play the football that we want to play under Chris Davies. And it made a massive difference. And that goal definitely helped. But then, of course, pretty quickly after.
Just before that, we had another chance as well, Matt, within 15 minutes, and that's when Mark Leonard floated a free kick over to Clara, who nodded it down, and Anderson, he got a sort of a half volley on it, but it was straight into the arms of Pope. So it was a good move, but I think the execution was just directly at the goalkeeper. That could have been a turner. But then, as you say, this is really the controversial one, isn't it? The Newcastle guy. I'm sure Blues fans and probably Newcastle fans watching this have watched that a few times. My gripe with it, right? My big gripe with the goal is that there was no VAR. And I heard that the goal line technology wasn't working either. Yeah. So that means that decision has been made by the on-field officials. That means that that's between the referee and the assistant referee. Now, the angle I saw, which I don't know if you've seen it on from BBC, which is a screenshot of when the ball's actually going out, it looks like it's over the line. But the problem is that the linesman who allegedly has given it, he's got Cochrane between him and the vision. Yeah, and he's not even straight with the ball. Yeah. He's actually, so the goal line's over here, but the lino's over here. So all I'm saying is, even if there was VAR and subsequently they would have given a goal, because that decision was made by on-field officials, they couldn't have given that. There's no way that they could have ever known that at that moment on field, and I think that's where they give it caused a lot of confusion, didn't it, Matt? Because when we thought Peacock Farrell saved it, and then we thought, because then Willock rifled the return over the bar, and we thought it was a goal kick, and everyone said, goal kick, it was a good save by Peacock.
Willock didn't question it. None of the other Newcastles questioned it. The Blues players didn't question it. No one even looked like a goal was on the table. Then suddenly the ref gets involved, or the fourth official gets involved, and they give a goal. I couldn't believe it. And also, Dad, when you look at the screen grabs, right, I've seen angles where it looks almost certainly not a goal.
Just about to say that.
And I've seen certain angles where it looks like it might be a hair. How can they give that in the moment? It makes no sense.
Well, I agree.
And I thought to myself, Dad, in the stand, the only reason why he's give it is because his watch would have went off. Because, with the goal line technology now, the referee's watch buzzes. But clearly that wasn't working. I didn't find that out until after the game. So I think it's, in my opinion, it's really bad to give that in the moment when the four officials that far away. And you have to be beyond reasonable doubt, surely, don't you? And also, as well, I think it was Peacock's foul positioning that kind
behind the line.
Yeah, because he was behind the line. It kind of made it a little bit, I think it looked worse to the official than it would have done anyway. But...
Yeah, and that screenshot that's being banned around social media that shows the ball like it's over the line, that's not taken straight in line, that's taken in front. So the angles could appear to make it look like it's over the line. But that's irrelevant anyway, really, because we're not talking VAR.
No,
this is not about VAR because it wasn't there. This is about the on-field officials given a decision which they clearly could not have seen, and they actually gave a goal when they shouldn't have done. That should have just been a goal kick to Blues, but they gave it, and at the end of the day, we had to get on with it. And of course, that sort of gave them a bit of momentum, and they scored their second goal shortly after, which I felt
scrappy, wasn't it?
I felt, it's a little bit poor on our part, actually. I think they caught us out again, and it was a bit of a scramble in the box, wasn't it? And eventually it fell to Callum Wilson, who prodded it over the line.
What I will say, which kind of went under the radar, in the build-up to the Newcastle play, there was a beautiful ball out to their right winger, sliced us open beautifully. But that was the only good thing about it. And then it went across and it got really scrappy. But I've got to say, and by the way, Blues fans, I promise you, I am not escaping Bailey Peacock-Farrell here. I'm not. But when you do look at those two goals, I mean, what's he doing in the box? Kind of a little bit all over the place, isn't he? I don't know whether Allsop would have been a bit more commanding in those positions. Anyway, just a small note from me there. I thought positioning was a little bit strange for those two goals. But again, it wasn't his. I'm not blaming Peacock. I'm just making an observation.
I know what you're getting at, and the honest truth is that most Blues fans would have been quite surprised that he, I don't think it would have been a surprise because Bailey Peacock-Farrell started in all of the cup games, but I think Blues fans were expecting Allsop to be in the starting lineup, and I don't think Bailey Peacock-Farrell is a bad goalkeeper, but I feel a nervousness around him, and that's just being honest. I don't think he's a really bad goalkeeper, but every time he gets the ball, I'm thinking I'll kick it away. Don't get closed down and stuff like that. I haven't got the confidence I have with Allsop, but I'm not for any reason blaming him at all.
Neither am I, Dad.
I'm not because I thought he made some good saves in that game, and did what he needed to do for most parts of the game. So, in this game, it's nothing to do. That defeat is nothing to do with him.
No, absolutely not.
I think that he played his part as much as any other Blues player.
But I think as Blues fans, Dad, it's fair to question positioning sometimes or decisions making sometimes, or whatever it might be. And I'm just looking at those goals thinking, could he have commanded his box a little bit better? He's kind of floating around, who knows?
Possibly, but I think every player will reflect on a game and wish they'd done things better. But the goalkeeper's such a significant position as well. I mean, they had the ball in the net again a few minutes later after they scored their second goal. I think the ball went over the top, and it was Willock who latched on to Dan Burns' flick, and it was offside.
Dad, coming back to the second goal, though, there's two things Blues fans have picked up on. Or people, one was there's a question of offside, when the ball comes across, and two, high foot from Wilson. Again. We'll move on quickly, Dad, because we're about to come on to our biggest moment of the night, the screamer. But again, little questions there, isn't there? Was it high foot? Was he offside? Again, let's not dwell on it too much because it was a great night. We are out, but I think again, poor officiating.
It was, yeah. And again, at the end of the day, we lost the game 3-2. We know that, and we're moving on, and we're happy with our performance. But it is worth mentioning these points is that if decisions go your way, then it's a completely different game, isn't it? But then we come on to what I think was the moment of the game.
Yes.
Tomoki Iwata, absolute screamer. Again, ball flicked into the air. It was cleared by them, and he leathered it for 20-25. And my word, the power on that ball is just as well there was a net behind there, because that would have killed a Newcastle fan behind that goal. It was a proper top finish, wasn't it? I mean, there's not many players that could have that level of skill, really. And it is skill, it's technique, it's accuracy. I mean, Pope didn't have a chance.
And by the way, if you're watching this, Newcastle fans or any other fans, that weren't a fluke. Iwata's been doing this all season.
No, he scored lots of goals from outside the box and whatever. He's a really dangerous player.
And before because Iwata's going to get all the plaudits for this goal, Dad, and rightly so, it was a screamer. But again, sometimes I like to look at the build-up to this goal as well. Keshi Anderson and Cochrane linked up really well on the left-hand side, before the ball went in.
Yeah.
And then it went in, and Iwata's positioning was just fantastic. And then obviously they cleared it, and he just got latched onto the end of it. But I mean, what a goal! I mean, that was arguably one of my favourite goals and moments down the Blues for a very long time.
I'd probably argue, and I've been going down there a long, long time, that's one of the best goals I've ever seen down there, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it is that good. It's not just the fact that it's a volley, it's the quality of what he does. And actually, Nick Pope only reacts after the ball's in the net. He's just that fast. I mean, really, an absolute stonk. And that got us back on level terms just before half time. And of course, the atmosphere notched up another level. And and even the Newcastle fans are, you can't not look at that goal and think that's pretty good. The Newcastle fans were waxing lyrical about that, saying that is some goal.
I've seen some tweets or X's, and the Newcastle fans, I think that's got to be one of the best goals I've seen in live action in a long time as well. So I think they knew that as well. But Dad, I think we're going to come to the half-time break as well. We also had a couple of chances ourselves. Scott Wright hit it straight down the keeper.
Yeah.
Stano had a header. So it's not as if we went in 2-2 and we just fluked a couple of goals. We scored two great. Well, first goal we had to be there to score. Second goal was outstanding, but we were actually toe to toe with Newcastle.
Yeah.
We give a really good account of ourselves.
Yeah. And Newcastle fans, a lot of them are saying that, it was our reserve team. Well, I think somebody calculated how much they was all worth, their reserve team. And even Tonoli came on, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was 60 or 70 million, something like that. That's worth more than our entire side, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
on one player. But we can't get into that. At the end of the day, they're a Premier League team. Even their reserves, if they call them as reserves, or squad players, they're good enough to play in the Premier League. So therefore, whichever team they put out there, it was going to be a tough game.
Absolutely.
So I'm proud of our team as well. But we come into the second half. Now there was no substitutions made at the beginning of the second half, which I totally agree with. And I think the dilemma for Chris Davies was we've got a massively important game against Cambridge coming up on Tuesday in the league. It's huge for us. And if it's 2-2 at half time, he's thinking, he must be thinking, what do I do now? Do I go for it? But then I don't want anybody injured, and we'll come on to Mark Leonard, unfortunately, in a minute. Or, do I actually sort of, contain the game and try and, do something so we stay in the game? Because he's got one mind on not getting players injured and keeping them fit and ready for the Cambridge game. But fair play to him, he didn't take that option at half time. He thought, well, must have been the game, so he kept all of our players on, which was really good. The second half was not as frantic, was it? It's very stop start.
It settled down a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think it was mainly to do with obviously the amount of incidents, obviously injuries, and
Also, I mean, the first half was so electric, 4 goals, big challenges. The second half was always going to be. Is never going to live up to that first half, was it? If we're going to be honest. And also, I think it settled down a bit. I think we noticed, didn't we, Dad, in sort of the first part of the second half, we weren't pinned in our own half, but we were sat back a little bit more than we were in the first half. And Newcastle, I'd say, sort of came into the game as it went on in the second half, which is fine. As we talked about, it's Newcastle. That's going to happen. But still, we still broke. We still went at them. And when we had the ball, we still created some good chances. So even though, fair enough, we were possibly a little bit more defensive in that second half, I still think we gave a really good account of ourselves. But what I would say, Dad, in the later part of the second half, I think we paid them a bit too much respect. We were giving them a bit too much space on the wings, a bit too much time on the ball. And again, we're jumping the gun, but we'll come on to the third goal in more detail in a minute. But that's where that came from, in my opinion. Too much time on the ball, too much space, and we did see that pattern a little bit in the second half. There,
I think what happened, Matt, is that the Newcastle did to us what we do to teams in League One. So they basically imposed themselves more, and that meant we had less of the ball. And it's actually us that started to look a little bit tired at the end. I don't think the substitutions helped. I think and I think the substitutions had to be made. I do, because Chris Davies said he needed to get more energy. But I think he's also protecting the likes of Jay Stansfield. Well, Leonard had to come off. We'll talk about that now. Actually, Williamson came on. It was nice to see him back, by the way.
Yeah.
He came back on 62nd minute, and because of that injury to Leonard, it looks like a nasty gash on his neck. We don't know the extent of that injury yet, whether it's not. It seems similar to a type of injury, maybe slightly worse than what happened to Cochrane at Barnsley, where he didn't have any ligament, muscle, or bone damage. It was more to do with a gash,
right?
And we're hoping it's just that. And I really saw a horrible picture of it.
It looked nasty,
that he could be out a while with that. I don't know. Hopefully he's not, because he was doing very, very well, very competitive. Williamson came on for him. First game back for a while. He looked like it a little bit, but
a few stray passes there from Williamson. And again, we're not jumping on a bandwagon, but it's fair to say there was a few stray passes from Williamson.
Christian Bielek came on for Scott Wright on 77. Lyndon Dykes for Anderson also on 77. Alfie May for Stansfield on 77. I think that's where the game changed.
Agreed,
because obviously we'd lost the forward momentum
speed
of
Stansfield.
Yeah,
energy.
that talk about Stansfield and Anderson. We took that. Nothing wrong with Alfie May and Lyndon. I mean, first thing Lyndon Dykes did was push one of their players over, wasn't it?
Battering ram.
Yeah,
I've always called Lyndon Dykes the battering ram.
Yeah, but if you're going to have Lyndon Dykes on the pitch, then we needed to get balls to him. But obviously, because of the quality of the opposition, and they were good, they stopped that happening. Alfie May was his usual self, just being a pest. But it's just Stansfield, and Anderson. They just give you that aggressive edge. And that once that went, I felt that the game was
they carry the ball as well, Dad.
Yeah.
They have the ball at their feet and they actually bring it forward. We lack that a little bit of Blues, and when you lose those players, it does kill that. I think the word you used was good. Speed, dynamism, athleticism. We lose that in the final third a little bit, don't we? Because Lyndon Dykes isn't going to give you that.
No. We needed that pace, but of course, then do you reckon? Obviously, you got to bear in mind that those players all had yellow cards as well. You do not want them sent off, because obviously we are thinking about our league campaign, and regardless, if you think, it's Newcastle United and you're going to go and play Cambridge, but it's getting out of this division 100%. Is the main thing. And then what everybody thought was strange when it happened, a sort of strange substitution, was the 84th, and Grant Hanley came on for Iwata, but actually, what happened is that Grant Hanley went to centre half, and Christian Bielek then went into midfield to replace Iwata. So it wasn't as strange as most people thought. But I just felt that the substitutions took the edge off us, and I thought that at that point, but I understand why they were made. So I think that they were necessary in order to protect our players from getting sent off. And if there's any slight little niggles, we want to get them fresh for Tuesday, don't we?
I think it was a sensible and mature decision to make.
Yeah, it's good management.
Exactly. Good. Given the context, we've got a league game on Tuesday. You're playing Newcastle. We've got yellow cards. Our injury table in the midfield stacking up a little bit now. It's always best to edge on the side of caution sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, at the end, they got the winner, 3-2. Again, it was a sort of goal that was avoidable. But I think the players at that point had given their all. And I think there was just a lapse of concentration, and we just allowed Willock to... it was Toon Army, hasn't it?
It was Willock that got down the right-hand side. And again, it plays into my point earlier. He had too much space, too much time. I think he got the ball in way too easy. And to be fair, he went straight through Peacock Fowler's legs.
I saw that as well. And, at the end of the day, it was probably a typical Premier League poachers type of goal. But we should have defended better, and we could have defended better. But ultimately, that's the type of goals that sometimes go in. That made it 3-2. And you always felt once they went 3-2 up, it would be a long road back for us based upon the substitutions.
Exactly.
And the last thing I wanted was extra time.
Yeah, I think a lot of Blues fans.
We didn't want extra time because obviously that would have been an extra 30 minutes for our players. But overall, Matt, I just felt that so proud of the team, and I think that's a lot of people would have watched Birmingham City for the first time on national TV and got a bit of a glimpse of what's happening. So we said that this game would be a measure about how far we've come in a very short period of time. We're talking 12 months really, because if that team that we had last season had played in this game, we probably would have ended up getting destroyed, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But if the measure is how far have we come, the answer is a very long way.
And I think we're going to close the video now, Dad. But I've got one final thing because it really made me laugh. When I got back and saw the highlights in the first half, there was one moment where Cochrane was marking Dan Burn in the box corner, and Cochrane's just up to his chest height. Dan Burn's absolutely towering over. And even Dan Burn was laughing, like he was pushing him off, almost like it was like a fly, a little annoying fly. But he's a huge bloke. He's only Dan Burn. Blimey neck, Newcastle fans. He's a mountain. But brilliant performance, Dad. I think the boys did us proud. We as fans did us proud as well. And what a fantastic night for the club. And as you said, Wagner saw it as well.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think that'll go down the memory bank for a long time. And but as I say, at the end of the most important thing for us, and it isn't a cliche, this is a fact, is getting out of League One, and that's what we're going to get back to now and move on from this, and hopefully have a bit of a reaction and get 3 points against Cambridge.
I think a lot of Blues fans would agree with you, Dad. Yeah. So as always, Birmingham City supporters, we would love to hear from you. Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm sure you'll agree. Even though it was a loss, I get that, it was still a magical night. The atmosphere, Wagner there, the goals, the challenges. I mean, what a night. It was absolutely fantastic. So please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And maybe you're a Newcastle supporter. Maybe you saw the pre-video. Maybe you're checking out this video for the first time. Please let us know, your thoughts as well. A lot of Newcastle fans have actually been very complimentary over social media with the game, with the atmosphere, but we'd love to hear from you as well. If you like this video specifically, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And check us out on our social media channels. We have an X page, we have an Instagram page, and we're also over on Spotify, so check us out over there as well. And if you haven't already, don't forget to press that big red subscribe button so you don't miss any future content all about Birmingham City. And myself and Dad will see you on the next one.